Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In the first story, we'll tell you how our OP got revenge on his abuser in the most unusual way. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go.
Boss Horse Racing, you're fired. They fired me because of the budget. That's exactly what they said. Flat, cold, like they were reading a weather forecast. We have to optimize expenses. Your position's been eliminated. I even nodded like a polite little boy who understands grown-up business. But inside I was thinking, okay, if my budget's the problem, where did the company's budget go? 2 weeks later, HR called me again, and this time their voice sounded like they'd just smelled blood in the water. But let's go in order. Names have been changed, but the nervous tics are real. Back in the 90s, I was what people in the office called a screen person. Not loud, not charismatic, not the guy cracking jokes by the coffee machine. My superpower was order. Spreadsheets, budgets, approvals, deadlines. Please confirm in writing. I worked in a mid-sized company where everyone pretended we were like a family. Except it was the kind of family where dad's an accountant, mom's a lawyer, and the kids are all underloved project managers. My department sat on the third floor: finance, procurement, expense control. My job was to make sure money didn't sprint into people's pockets faster than HR could send reminders about corporate values. And then she walked into my life. Her name was Karen. Yes, an actual Karen, with the "I need to speak to your manager" haircut and the stare of someone who genuinely believes the universe should sign her a power of attorney over anything that moves. She was my direct boss, the director of operations. On paper, strategy, efficiency, optimization. In reality, she cruised through the office like a shark in an aquarium, checking who was breathing too loudly. On her first day, she came to my desk, tapped her nails on a folder of invoices, and said, You're the little boy who likes numbers?" "I'm the one who likes numbers to match," I said. She smiled. It was the kind of smile you see on someone who just found free extra sauce on the menu. "Listen," she leaned in, "we move fast around here. We don't like bureaucracy. If I say pay, you pay. Got it?" "If you say pay, I ask for approval," I said. "That's company policy." Her smile cracked a little. "Policy? Seriously? We're doing business here, not writing a constitution." Later, I understood. Karen hated policies because policies wouldn't let her do what she loved most. And what she loved most was gambling. One time, she stopped me by the elevator and said in that fake friendly tone that for her meant agree or I'll eat you alive. "Friday, we're going to a client event. You in?" "I'm not in sales." "Exactly why you're coming. I need someone smart, like you." The client event turned out to be a racetrack, a real one. It smelled like hay, hot dogs, and people's dreams dying faster than their bets. She walked between the stands in a business suit and sunglasses like she was filming an ad titled, "How to Look Confident While You're Secretly on Fire." "Look," she nudged me, "that one, number 7. He has winner's eyes." "The horse?" "The universe," she said, and quickly filled out a betting slip. Next to us stood a man with the kind of face every security camera in the city had seen. He leaned toward Karen and said quietly, "No surprises today, Karen. I want what's mine by Monday." Karen stretched on a smile. "Don't worry, I always pay my debts back." "Yeah," he nodded, "just not always with money." I pretended I didn't hear, but I remembered, and when we got back to the office, I watched her go straight to accounting like she was trying to outrun her own shadow. I didn't learn the full scope of her gambling right away. At first, it looked like a weird habit, constantly checking her phone. She could run a meeting, assign tasks, snap at people, while one eye hunted for notifications. Once I saw something on her screen like Belmont, 5th race, odds 7-1. I assumed it was some business project, 5th run, like a production release. Then she walked into my office, didn't bother saying hello, and tossed a receipt onto my desk. "Put this through as client entertainment. It's important." I looked, a restaurant next to the racetrack, an amount big enough to feed half the department and still buy them all therapy. "Which client?" I asked. "A potential one. Very promising," she said, and raised an eyebrow for a second. "What, you don't trust me?" I trust documents, I said. Who attended? I need names for the report. She froze, then she smiled again, only now there was no warmth in it. Write me and, the client. The client's name? Mr. Business, she snapped. Process it. I didn't. I emailed her, please confirm the client and the business purpose of the expense. And I CC'd compliance like policy required. It was a tiny, polite move, like lightly tapping the glass of the aquarium. The shark felt it. After that, the show got weird. Karen started bringing me invoices with the same script every time. Urgent, confidential, don't ask extra questions. Payments went to companies with names that sounded like a random word generator. Blue Ribbon Consulting, Silver Star Events, Premium Solutions Group. The amounts were small but frequent. Exactly how you do it when you don't want anything to look like a big theft. Big thefts get noticed. Small ones are like mosquitoes. Annoying, but nobody hunts them until the itching starts. So I did what any screen person does. I built a picture. I made a spreadsheet, date, amount, vendor, expense category, who approved. I love that spreadsheet the way other people love house cats. It purred with logic. And then my spreadsheet started screaming. Some vendors shared the same zip code. One had an address that matched a shopping center where there happened to be a gentleman's card room. You know the kind, a place where gentlemen win money from random people and losing sometimes comes with a broken smile. I wasn't a detective, but even I could understand if Premium Solutions Group is getting paid for marketing consulting at 2 a.m. on a Friday, then either they're the most creative consultants on earth or someone's playing cards. One morning, Karen stormed into my office, slammed the door, and said, "Listen, you're putting sticks in my wheels." "I'm putting signatures in the right places," I said. "No, you're undermining my work. You're making me look bad." "If company policy makes you look bad, then the problem isn't me," I said. She paused, leaned closer, and hissed, "You're too smart for your own good." "And you're too much of a gambler for the budget," I blurted. I shouldn't have said that. I saw it in her eyes like someone had just ripped a curtain off a window. She jerked back, then laughed, loud and artificial. "A gambler? You think I gamble? I invest and risk. Risk is business, sweetheart." And she walked out, slamming the door so hard dust lifted off my printer. After that, she started pushing harder. First came the performance improvement. She summoned me to a conference room and said, "I'm unhappy with your flexibility." "I'm an accountant, not a yoga instructor," I said. "Don't joke. This is a serious conversation. You're not a team player." "A team player is someone who helps the team avoid prison," I said. Her jaw tightened. "Are you recording our conversations?" "I'm taking notes," I said, and showed my notebook. Like you asked, less bureaucracy, papers cheaper than court. That was dark humor. But for me, it was pure math. Then she tried to go around me. She looked for people who'd process her payments without questions, but the system required my approval for anything outside the rules. And the more she ran in circles, the more tracks she left. Beautiful electronic ones, time-stamped. At one point, she tried a trick. "Put this through as staff training," she said, showing me an invoice. I looked, Silver Star Events. The amount was as round as her lie. "It says VIP table," I said. "That's very important personnel," Karen said without blinking. I stared at her for about 3 seconds, then I said, "Confirm it in writing." She snatched the invoice off my desk, crumpled it, and hissed, "You'll regret this." I thought, no, you'll regret it, preferably in front of auditors. Then came the day they fired me. They called me into a small room next to HR. Sitting there was the HR manager, Melanie, a kind woman with the face of someone who dreams of being a florist, but instead fires people for a living. Next to her sat Karen, arms crossed like she was hugging her own hatred. Melanie started. "We're very sorry, but due to budget cuts," Karen cut her off. "He doesn't fit into the new structure. We need more adaptable people." I looked at Melanie. "Is my position eliminated, or am I not adaptable?" Melanie blinked. The position is eliminated." Karen again. "But we appreciate your contribution. It's just, the energy isn't right." I nodded. "I understand. Can I get the reason in writing?" Karen grimaced. "You still want paperwork even after you're fired?" Especially after I'm fired, I said. It's like a seatbelt. You don't need it when everything's fine. Melanie handed me the documents. I signed, packed my things, and left, greeting the security guard like it was an ordinary day. The only thing I did off-script at home, I opened my archive. I had a backup, my spreadsheets, email threads, approvals, screenshots, meeting notes. In our company, most Teams calls were automatically recorded and saved for training. I always downloaded copies whenever budgets were discussed. Was I paranoid? No, I worked with Karen. I named the folder Karen. It was therapeutic. The next day, I called the compliance hotline, calmly, no hysteria, like someone calling a plumber. You've got a leak, but it's not water. I want to report possible budget abuse and retaliation for refusing to violate policy, I said. There was silence on the other end, then a voice. Can you provide examples? I have a spreadsheet, I said, and emails, a lot of emails. I sent the first packet, 10 of the most obvious transactions where Karen asked me to run expenses under the wrong categories. I included her wording, her urgent, her don't ask questions, her you're undermining my work, and I attached my termination letter because of budget. I didn't write she's playing cards. I wrote suspicious transactions and policy violations. I wasn't trying to be a dramatist. I was trying to be precise. Karen did the drama herself. A week later, Melanie from HR called me. Her voice was tight. Hi, can we talk? Of course, I said. Is this about my energy? It's about the transactions. Did you ever see these payments? I blocked them, I said, until I got fired. Silence. Then, we have an investigation open. Internal audit wants to meet with you. Can you come in? I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. I can. I'm free. Turns out budget optimization frees up a lot of time. At the meeting, there were 3 people. Melanie, an auditor named Tom. He looked like a man who reads terms of service all the way through. And the company lawyer, Mr. Hopkins, who smiled like he could already see someone burning in court. Tom began, we reviewed part of the expenses. There are questions about codes. I had questions too, I said, and that's exactly why I was fired. Mr. Hopkins raised an eyebrow. Do you have documentation? I opened my folder. I have email threads and records. I showed them the chain of emails where Karen asked to categorize expenses as training or client meetings while the invoices said VIP table, entry fee. I showed messages where she flat out wrote, don't ask extra questions, just do it. I showed her attempts to move money between categories. We'll put it back later. Tom just nodded. It was the most satisfying nodding of my life. And one more thing, I said, here's my spreadsheet. Dates, amounts, repeating vendors, identical addresses. Mr. Hopkins leaned in. That's an address? Yes, I said, there seems to be a club there. Melanie swallowed nervously. What kind of club? I shrugged. I don't know, but gentleman's card room doesn't sound like leadership training. Mr. Hopkins smiled genuinely for the first time. Dark humor in a lawyer's office is like coffee. They can't live without it. Thank you, he said. This is very helpful. After that, things move fast. When auditors smell fraud, they turn into sharks. Karen felt it. Later, I heard that at first she tried to play confident. She said, it was strategy. I was building relationships. You just don't understand how business works. But when they showed her specific payments, she started unraveling, getting irritated, yelling, blaming other people. At one point, she said a sentence I wish I could have heard in person. I had to win it back. It was one bad week. Yes, win it back in a company where the budget is sacred. Then she tried to make me the villain. She wrote that I manipulated codes, sabotaged processes, hid payments. The problem was, in my emails, I kept asking her to confirm everything in writing, and her replies, there was a whole lot of her. It's like trying to set someone on fire when they're wearing a fireproof suit and you're wearing a suit made of gasoline. A month later, Mr. Hopkins called me. We've completed the internal investigation, he said, and we'd like to discuss a settlement. A settlement? I repeated. Yes, given the circumstances of your termination. I was sitting in my kitchen staring at cheap coffee, thinking that sometimes life really is fair. It just doesn't work fast. It works like accounting. Delayed, but with interest. I'm listening, I said. He explained the company acknowledges my termination was an incorrect management decision and is offering compensation, a decent amount, plus coverage of legal fees if needed, plus a reference letter. And Karen, I asked? A pause on the other end, then Karen no longer works for the company, and the materials were forwarded to the appropriate authorities. I didn't ask which ones. It was enough to imagine her in a world where winning it back happens only in court and the stakes are your future. And you know what the best part is? A couple weeks later, I ran into Melanie by accident in a cafe. She looked tired, but there was relief in her eyes. "Hi," she said. "Hi, how's the family?" I asked. She smiled sadly. Our family had an addicted relative, and we finally took away their credit card. I laughed. It was dark, but honest. "I'm sorry," she added. "I truly thought it was just downsizing." "Me too," I said. "Turns out they weren't downsizing me. They were downsizing her ability to steal." She nodded. You really saved every email?" "I worked with the budget," I said, "and budgets are like ghosts. Even if you don't believe in them, they can still ruin your life. Now I have a different job, a different company, a different boss. He loves speed too, only his speed doesn't include horse racing and underground poker. If someone gets fired because of the budget, check who was really using that budget. Karen bet on horses, the author bet on facts, and facts got there first. Because in the end, she didn't lose to the author, she lost to the paperwork." Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.